Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I think I avoided something really bad. So, there's a small forest near my house, probably about 200 meters by 200 meters, almost a square. There's like a country road on the side that farmers use, and there are like small roads into the forest, so it's divided into 4 parts. It's not remote, but not super busy either. There's a main road next to it, but hardly any cars pass. One part of the forest, the back left section, has always creeped me out ever since I was a kid. The rest of it feels fine, but that one area, something always felt wrong. Anyway, last year, 2024, I was walking along that part of the forest. I was a teenager and walking alone. The place is like safe to take walks and all of that, and just to mention, I live in Slovenia. The path curves a bit so you can't see too far ahead. I turn a corner, and suddenly, there's a man right in front of me, about 6 meters away. I didn't hear him coming at all. No footsteps, no rustling, no nothing. It was like he appeared out of nowhere. He was an adult man, definitely not in his 20s or 30s. He was older. I immediately felt like, oh my god, it's an adult and a weird guy, and I'm a girl, I need to watch out. And I didn't turn my back to him. I just kept walking, super aware of where he was. I looked back and he was staring at me. I told myself that if he starts walking toward me, I am sprinting straight into the field next to us. Eventually, I turned forward again and I didn't see him anymore. I assumed that he just walked away. But something felt off, so I looked again, and he was in the forest itself, not on the path. He was walking through the woods in a section that people don't usually walk in, especially not during spring or summer when it's full of underbrush. He was walking in the direction that I had come from, and he was holding a roll of duct tape, the thick gray kind that every dad has for some reason. I stared at him. I didn't want to lose sight of him. It felt extremely wrong and creepy. I mean, who the hell brings duct tape into the forest and then hides in the trees? And then walks into the direction back into the forest towards a teenage girl. Then, a little while later, he shows up again, this time riding a small electric scooter that he literally had in the same bushes. Like he came back with duct tape and looked at me. I was looking at him, and then he went back and came back with a goddamn scooter. I was heading back by then, and I knew there was no way I was letting him behind me. I pretended to tie my shoelaces until he went far enough, and then he rode off in the opposite direction. But he kept stopping and looking back at me as he went. There are fields around, so it was very visible where he was after he drove off. I was beyond creeped out. The whole thing felt like a horror movie setup. A teenage girl alone, creepy man in the woods, hiding in the trees with duct tape. I can't stop thinking about how bad that could have turned out if I hadn't been alert. I didn't report it at that time. I don't remember if I even had my phone with me. I was so focused on staying safe that calling the police didn't register. Also, at first, I was like, okay, maybe he was on a walk. But duct tape? Walking in the bushes and trees? That's crazy. For some stupid reason, I didn't tell my parents. I don't even remember what I was thinking. I just know that I didn't feel any fear, anxiety, or panic. But I was just very aware. For some reason, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm overreacting, overthinking stuff. But I was thinking about it today, and I literally felt so much anxiety and fear because God knows what could have happened. I'm very thankful that I didn't have headphones on because I usually have them on, but this time I didn't for some reason. I don't know if that was my guardian angel or something, but I am just extremely thankful. Hi, I'm not sure if this is the right place to put this, since I don't really frequent this kind of subreddits, but my therapist said that writing and sharing my experiences would be helpful, so here it goes. A few months ago, I went to my local Freshco to get groceries. It was a bit late in the afternoon. I work until 5:30, and when I get off, it's pretty crowded. So I like to wait until it's around 7 before I get in. I don't want to have to deal with that many people, as I do have social anxiety. It was pretty late when I got there, and not too many people in the store anymore. Since it would be closing in an hour, I go about my normal shopping path, grabbing my usual stuff and checking a few things on sale until I made it to the cereal aisle. I was eyeing the oatmeal crisp, my favorites, which had gone up an entire $1. While I was contemplating if it was still worth it for the price, I began to feel an eeriness around my body, that feeling you get when you're being watched, and turning to look down the aisle, lo and behold, there was a guy staring at me. As I looked his way, he quickly snapped his head to the shelf in front of him, which would have been slightly convincing had it not been empty. It may sound ridiculous, but there this creep was, pretending to shop while staring at an empty shelf. I tense up a bit, already feeling my anxiety building up. I thought he was going to ask me for my number or something, but he kept facing forward, looking at the empty shelf. Feeling weirded out by him, I quickly get what I need from this aisle and I move on to the next one. I try to get back to focusing on my shopping, but the man comes into the aisle about a minute after I do, and this time, standing a bit closer to me. Thinking it might all just be in my head, or that he'll get the hint if I move aisles again, I backtracked to the aisle that I was in before, hoping that he would leave me alone. However, I was far too optimistic about that. Since he followed me back to that aisle, I was only a few feet away from me at this point. My anxiety was through the roof now, so I decided just to leave and come back tomorrow for the rest of the things that I needed. This guy was starting to scare me, and I'd rather not spend the rest of the time here looking over my back for a creeper like him. I quickly pushed my cart to the checkout and pay. Luckily, since it was so late, there wasn't a line, and I was able to check out rather quickly. But the downside to that meant that he was able to check out quickly too. But in my anxious mind, all I could think about was getting into my car where no one could get to me and then driving home. And I did just that after checking out. I power walked to my car, threw the groceries in the back seat, and then drove off. Of course, I had only got about half of what I needed, but more than enough to make it till tomorrow afternoon, when I could just come back again and buy the rest. There should be no reason why that guy would be there tomorrow, since he was shopping today, so I thought that I could rest easy. The next day, I went back to Freshco to get the frozen peas and microwavable pizzas that I was planning on getting yesterday. I also decided that I did in fact want my oatmeal crisp, even if the price was more expensive. I walked into the store and immediately went to the cereal aisle once more for my prize, only to stop dead in my tracks when I turned into it. He was there again, in the exact same spot where I first noticed him staring at me. I quickly turned the corner. The oatmeal crisps were expensive anyways. I decided to just get the frozen food and leave before the guy spotted me. I quickly passed the aisle he was in and quickly grabbed the things that I needed before heading to the checkout again. There was no line, but the issue was, since there was no one else there, when the man turned the corner, he noticed me instantly. I had been looking over my shoulder a bit to keep an eye out for him, but now that I knew he saw me, I turned my head back quickly, paid for my food, and quickly walked away once more back to my car. I did not have the nerve to look behind me when I shoved my food into my car and I drove off, which might have been my biggest mistake. I didn't pay attention to anything but getting home, thinking that I would be safe there. But over the next few days, I realized my mistake. I started seeing him hanging around near my street, sometimes late at night across the street from me, just sitting there on the ground, staring at my house. I, of course, called the police, but since there wasn't enough evidence and they didn't spot him when they arrived, they said that they couldn't do much, but that they would send a car to patrol my neighborhood more frequently. After giving its description, they told me that they would keep an eye out for him. But that did little to calm my nerves. The more prominent patrols did work, however, because I started to see him less and less around my street once the police started frequenting it. I had opened up to my friends about this, and one of them made a good point, saying that if he was actively avoiding the police, chances are that he knows what he was doing is wrong and probably has experience with this kind of thing. But according to the police, they don't have anyone matching his description as a known offender. But seeing him less did calm my nerves a bit. But for the time being, I decided to order my groceries online. Is it more expensive? Yes, but I would rather be safe and poor than putting myself into potential danger just to save a few bucks. Things started to become normal again, not like how it was before, but I had stopped peering out my windows at night in fear that he was out there and was able to sleep a bit more comfortably again. But over the span of 2 weeks, the police patrols have become less frequent until they stopped altogether. I was afraid that he would come back after realizing that the police were no longer patrolling the area. But so far, I haven't seen him yet. Are there any good tips for home security that I can do? Because I am no longer feeling safe again, and I'm not sure that I will anytime soon. Hey everyone, I'm posting here because something really unsettling happened recently, and I would appreciate any advice or thoughts. I also don't want to get too specific with location details, so I'm just saying the general area. On the night of April 28, 2025, my mom and I were walking home from dinner in Victoria, BC at around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. We don't have a car, so we were walking along the side of the road when a white SUV-type vehicle showed up behind us. We moved over to let it pass, but instead, it stayed right behind us, inching along slowly. And as soon as that happened, we were a little freaked out. Continuing, when we turned onto the main street near our home, the vehicle turned with us and parked across the street. The driver didn't exit or turn the car off, he just sat there. It made us uncomfortable enough that instead of going straight home, we waited for the bus and took that to avoid revealing where we lived. Over an hour later, we returned. The SUV was still there, now turned off and empty. As we passed it on foot and we were coming close to our home, we were kind of behind this van parked in front of our place, so we couldn't really see the driver get back in or where he came from. We just heard the car unlock and start up again. We were super freaked out, so we stayed hiding behind the van. At this point, I had mentioned to my mom that if we ducked down slightly, the driver wouldn't be able to see us go into our home. So we did that, and I made the mistake of turning off our porch light and then turning it back on. A minute after that, the car drove away, and since then, we haven't had any problems. Please note that we have had suspicious behavior before, like my bike getting stolen from our backyard, and even people going into our backyard at night. Additional notes was that he was a white male, like over 50 years old, with dark gray peppery hair, short but slightly overgrown. I only saw his side profile, but he looked overweight with a fuller face. He had no beard or glasses, and from the looks of it, he was wearing a t-shirt. I'm not sure about the color. About the car, it was a white SUV type, maybe Jeep. Not like the big vans, but like a regular stubby car. It looked like a really nice model, and probably more on the expensive side. Thick black front grille, like the heavy bars on Jeeps. Orange headlights. Very quiet engine, so it could possibly be a hybrid or electric. And I specifically remember seeing that he had a document piece of paper on the dashboard sitting up. But I do not remember anything about the license plate. If anyone has any advice on the information that I provided, that would be amazing. I'm really looking for an answer if this was truly someone following us, and if we could possibly be being stalked, or if we are being dramatic. And any deets about what type of car that it was would be amazing. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to mention is that I did end up looking at articles if there were any weirdos in the past in our area. And there was one article, 1 to 2 years ago, about a lurker ending up in people's backyards or following people. Hi, Miss Creepy Tales. I hope that you're doing well. I'm sending you this story in hopes that you can share this with people and I can get some feedback on my situation. I'm male and I'm 24 and I would like to keep my name anonymous. I feel a bit awkward writing this story because this is my first time doing something like this, so if there are any mistakes or if things aren't very clear, please forgive me. I'm doing my best. I want to talk about something that I am currently going through. I'm ashamed to share this to my own family and friends because I just don't think that it's normal for a guy to go through this. But I also feel like I have to tell someone because I am feeling anxious and I'm feeling like I'm about to lose my mind. Please don't judge me. So here it goes. I think my roommate is stalking me. It all started in university. I was still living with my parents and I had to travel 3 hours back and forth every single day just to get to uni. It was really a hassle because of the traffic and just the general stress of traveling around my area. When I get to school, I'm already tired, and when I get home, I'm also too tired to do anything else. I was not having a great time at all. I decided that I needed to do something about it. I talked to my parents, and they said that they would support me financially if I wanted to move to a place closer to uni, but they gave me a certain budget, and if the place I found cost more than that, then I would have to figure things out myself. My parents were great, but we just didn't have a lot of money, which is understandable. I agreed, and I set out searching for places and even talked to some of my friends at school. Unfortunately, all the places were above the budget and I was not sure what to do. I didn't want to take a part-time job at that point because there were a lot of schoolwork to be done and I don't think it would work well for me. I was seriously considering just canceling the whole idea. But 2 days later, I got a text from a guy named Aiden. Let's just call him that for the sake of the story. He was talking about how he heard I was looking for a place. He said that he was also thinking of doing the same since he also lived a bit far. He explained that if we live together, we can halve the cost. I thought that it was perfect and it was the best idea ever. I even scolded myself a little for not thinking about getting a housemate. Fast forward, we agreed, found a place, and then moved in together. And to be honest, it was amazing. Gone are the early morning stress from traveling, and when I got home, I had the energy to study and finish homework and papers. Aiden was also great. He wasn't lazy, he was a clean person, he wasn't greedy, he always shared his food and snacks, and we genuinely got along. I thought he was a great housemate. Until he wasn't. It was 6 months in when I started noticing some weird things. One day, Aiden asked me about the comic book that I was reading. I responded, we talked about it, and that was the end of the conversation. But I realized I never mentioned that to him or to anyone, and the comic book I was reading was placed inside the drawer in my nightstand. It wasn't like it was left around the house or even out and about in my room. So, how did he know about it? I brushed it off thinking maybe I did mention it to him and I just forgot. Another instance was that one day at uni, we had an event and we were required to wear a certain color to represent our teams. Aiden asked me if I wanted to borrow a shirt with my assigned color since he says that I don't have that shirt. I responded with, I don't? I don't even know what color shirts I have exactly. So when I checked, he was right. This was seriously starting to freak me out. Why does this guy know so much about my personal belongings? I'm not a messy guy and I never leave my things out or leave my door just open and free for everyone to look into. My clothes are also in my drawers. I was getting so confused and freaked out, I've started becoming hyper aware when Aiden was around. And I have noticed that he stares at me a lot. I know that sounds a bit vain, but I'm serious. He stares a bit way too long and a bit way too intense. The last straw was when one Friday, I got a message from my grandma asking me to come home on the weekend. She wanted me to help her with something at home. I was busy when I got the message, so I opened it, read it, and I just closed it, despite the fact that I haven't replied yet. And just like the klutz that I am, I forgot about it. And my day went on as normal, and I went to sleep. The next day, I wake up and I go to the kitchen to grab some hot chocolate when Aiden asked me what time I was leaving for my grandma's. I was confused at first, but then I remember the text message. The thing is, I am 200% sure that I did not tell Aiden or anyone about it since I myself forgot about the whole thing. The message was already open, so it's not like it was on my screen or something, and even if it was, how would Aiden be able to see it? I lost it. I asked Aiden how he knows, and he gave me a nervous giggle and a stupid excuse how he saw it on my screen. I screamed at him and I told him how that was not possible, and I was trying to pressure him into telling me why he knows personal things about me and if he is snooping around my room when I'm not there or when I'm asleep. He said no, and then he made a dumb excuse in how he needs to go, and then he just left. I packed a bag and I'm spending my whole weekend with my grandma. I made sure to lock my room and I'm here just thinking on what to do. I can't move out yet. There's still 2.5 months left on the lease, and I'm 100% sure that I am not extending the lease after this occurrence. I'm definitely moving out, even if it means that I have to go back to my daily 3-hour travels. But I'm not sure how to proceed with the remaining 2.5 months. Does anyone have any experience with this kind of situation? If you do, what did you do? Please, I would really appreciate any feedback about this. I'll be seeing Aiden again on Monday, and I'm not sure how to interact with him. And I'll update you when something happens. Thank you so much for reading my story. Before I tell my story, I just want to say that I'm aware of how dumb it is to do stuff like this, and I probably won't be doing this for a long time after what happened a few months ago. Anyway, I just really needed to post this because I don't know what else to tell. About a half a year ago, I had the scariest experience of my life. For context, I'm a dumb teenage boy who sneaks out every now and then just to walk around at night. I find something very peaceful walking around after dark, but my parents have never let me stay out past sunset. So, for about a year, whenever school gets hard or just life in general gets stressful, I sneak out and I just walk around for about 2 hours or so. Anyway, the night that I'm talking about began with me deciding to go for another 2 a.m. ritual. I grabbed a sweatshirt, got on my shoes, and once I was outside and hopped the fence to freedom. After I was safely away from my neighborhood, I took one of my usual routes, which is cutting through another neighborhood and walking onto a winding road, where I then walk down the middle of it and head towards a circle of shops and fast food restaurants. I was probably there for a solid chunk of time, just walking in the loop and ending up sitting on a bench. At some point, I picked up a plastic spoon on the ground and I started to grind it against the pavement until the spoon part was half gone out of boredom. This is important later. I was chilling there for a bit before I decided to walk around a bit more, and I eventually ended up at a park like 10 minutes away from my neighborhood, where I usually end off the night just staring off into the sky. The park itself creeps me out sometimes because at night, there's a huge ring of trees surrounding all sides of you, and anyone could watch from the woods. Anyway, shit starts to get real here because I'm staring up into existence, feeling like a philosopher while I'm laying on one of those table benches, when I hear an old man whistle. I probably shot up because I had never had another human interaction on these walks. And then I see this old man, dimly illuminated by a streetlight, are the only entrance of the park. I had seen him before. He's this tall, skinny white guy that walks around our town all day, and I would honestly think he was homeless if he wasn't wearing the same fancy button-up and cargo pants every day. Me and my mom have talked about him, and we think that he's mentally disabled and probably lives with a caretaker. I had an interaction with him once about a year ago that I was walking home in broad daylight when I passed the man who was at that time sitting on a bench. The dude just looks at me and says, "Jesus loves you," with a weird little smirk on his face. I responded with an awkward, "I know," even though I'm an atheist and didn't really think much of it. Anyway, back to the park at night. I just stare at him in that empty parking lot, probably way longer than I should have, because he was already creeping me the hell out. I imagine we were staring at each other for a really long time before he slowly starts walking towards me. And at this point, I am frozen in fear because why the fuck is this old white geezer out with me at like 3 a.m. in an empty park? I am standing up at this point when he gets close to me and just gives me this cheeky grin like he knows something that I don't yet, and I'm still just gawking at him like a fucking buffoon. Have you ever scoffed at a book or movie when the main character is frozen in fear? Well, I have, and I never will again, because at this point I'm more frozen than I have ever been in my life. At some point, after probably like 10 seconds of awkward standing, he just kinda half pats and half grabs my shoulder and reaches into his pocket to pull out a plastic spoon. The same plastic spoon that I was holding about an hour ago at the shop plaza. He just kinda tucks it in my front sweatshirt pocket, and I guess something just makes my mind snap out of my frozen stance because I absolutely fucking book it to the public bathroom and I lock the door. I'm now in this dimly lit bathroom in the middle of the night, and I'm guessing at this time it was past 3 in the morning. I assumed that maybe he would leave once he saw me in my state of panic, but honestly, I don't think he ever left. I ended up looking closer at the plastic spoon, and it was altered. Have you ever seen that one viral AI-generated image where it looks completely normal at a glance, but you can't identify a single thing? If not, just search up the words, "Name one thing in this image." Now, imagine that, except the word carved onto a plastic spoon, but you can't read it or even identify any of the letters. I think that I sat in that locked bathroom for over an hour, just contemplating every single decision that I have made in the past year that led up to that nightmare that I was in at that moment. To be clear, I had no phone or any way of contacting someone because my parents installed Life 360 on my phone and they can see my location whenever. I also had no watch or access to the outside to tell the time. I ended up gaining the courage to unlock the door and just absolutely rocket myself towards the exit of the park. And before I turned the corner, I looked back for a second and I saw a figure sitting on the bench that was right next to the bathroom. This senile old man had waited outside for an hour just to see me one more time. I'm being completely honest when I say that I held a full sprint until I got to my neighborhood, where I caught my breath behind a bush and then snuck back in my house. I haven't gone out at night since that experience, and I don't know if I'll ever sneak out again. I still have the spoon buried somewhere in my wardrobe, but I haven't looked at it in months. Sometimes, I think about how long he was following me, and if it was an isolated incident, or if he had been stalking me on other late-night trips. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on the matter, unless you're here to lecture me about my actions because trust me, I've already learned. Anyway, creepy old man that was stalking me that night, let's not meet again. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.